Narrator, calm, almost conversational. Clowns. They're supposed to be harmless, right? A splash of color in a dull world. Oversized shoes, painted smiles, goofy voices. They juggle. They twist balloons into dogs. They trip over their own feet on purpose, just to make you laugh. That's the image we all grow up with. For most people, clowns are nothing more than a silly distraction. But for some of us, clowns are something else entirely. Something off. Maybe it's the mask. That thick layer of makeup hiding a real face, a real expression. Maybe it's the voice. Too exaggerated, too cheerful, and just a little too unnatural. Or maybe it's the fact that you can't tell who's underneath it all, or what they're really thinking while they stare back at you. And here's the thing. Strange clown sightings? They're not rare. They've been reported all over the world. Some are harmless, some are unsettling, and some are the kind of moments that never leave you. Moments where the laughter stops, and the only sound you hear is your own heartbeat. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 of those moments. A birthday party that ended with a child disappearing. A lonely stretch of highway where a clown stood in the road and wouldn't move. And a carnival where employees began to vanish without a trace. 3 encounters, 3 clowns, and 3 times when a painted smile hid something much, much darker. By the time we're done, you might understand why so many people don't just dislike clowns. They fear them. Music dips lower. A slow, pulsing drumbeat begins, almost like a heartbeat. Because here's the truth. Behind that smile, you never really know who or what is looking back at you. A faint, distorted giggle echoes as the drumbeat fades. Narrator. It was a warm Saturday afternoon in late June. 14-year-old Sarah was upstairs in her room, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, when the sound of the doorbell floated up from downstairs. She didn't think much of it at first. Her little brother's 7th birthday party was in full swing in the backyard. The yard was already packed with neighborhood kids, their voices rising and falling in a constant wave of laughter, squeals, and the occasional shriek of excitement. Folding tables sagged under the weight of paper plates, juice boxes, and a melting ice cream cake waiting in the kitchen. Her parents had gone all out this year, and part of that meant hiring a clown. Mr. Giggles the Great. He wasn't their first choice. They'd actually booked another clown weeks earlier. But 2 days before the party, they'd gotten a call. Family emergency, the man had said. And just like that, he was out. A friend of a friend had recommended this guy, Mr. Giggles, so her mom made the call. A clown's a clown, she'd said with a shrug. But when Sarah came downstairs to see who had just arrived, she stopped halfway down the steps. Mr. Giggles was not what she expected. He was tall, much taller than any clown she'd seen before. His costume hung loosely on his frame. The reds faded into a dull, almost rusty color. His makeup was wrong. Not neat and crisp like you'd see at a fair. It was smudged in places, uneven. The white face paint stopped abruptly at his jawline, and the painted smile was crooked, one corner higher than the other. And then there was his voice. When he greeted the kids, it wasn't high-pitched or cartoonish. It was deep. Deep enough to make Sarah glance up from where she stood. The little ones didn't notice. They were too busy squealing over balloon swords and giggling at the squeaky horn he pulled from his pocket. For a while, Sarah told herself she was just being paranoid. He was a clown. Clowns were supposed to be weird. That was the whole point. But then, she saw it. He bent down to whisper something to Evan, a small boy with messy brown hair and a gap-toothed smile. Evan's smile faded as the clown leaned closer, his gloved hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder. Then, without looking up, Mr. Giggles took Evan's hand and started leading him toward the garage. Sarah's stomach tightened. "Hey!" she called out, her voice sharper than she expected. "What are you doing?" The clown stopped. Slowly, too slowly, he turned his head toward her. His painted smile didn't move, but his eyes didn't match it. They were flat, dark. "Just showing him a magic trick," he said, that deep voice rumbling under the summer noise. Sarah didn't blink. "Do it out here, where everyone can see." He didn't answer, didn't argue, just released Evan's hand and walked away without another word. blending back into the chaos of the party. From that moment on, Sarah couldn't stop watching him. He kept his distance from the adults, lingering instead at the edges of groups of children. Every so often, she'd glance up from her phone and catch him standing completely still, just watching. When it was time for cake, everyone gathered around the table to sing. Everyone, except Mr. Giggles. He stood at the very back, head tilted ever so slightly, his eyes fixed on the kids. Sarah's skin prickled. And then, maybe 20 minutes later, the first scream rang out. It was Evan's mom. She was calling his name, frantic, urgent. Other adults joined in, voices growing louder as panic spread. Evan was gone. The kids were crying. Parents were scattering, searching the yard, the garage, even the street. And Mr. Giggles? He was gone too. Police arrived within minutes. They searched the neighborhood, checked the nearby park, knocked on doors. Nothing. Hours later, just as the sun was dipping low, Evan was found walking alone along a side street, barefoot, silent. In his hand was a single red balloon. When one of the officers popped it, they found something carved into the latex, jagged letters pressed deep into the rubber. It read, "The party's not over. Mr. Giggles the Great was never identified." The phone number Sarah's mom had used to book him? Disconnected. No trace. And Evan, he never talked about what happened. Not once. Brief pause, the faint, slow squeak of a balloon being twisted, then silence. Narrator calm but uneasy. It was late October, that time of year when the air feels sharper, when darkness creeps in earlier than you expect. Jake was driving home after visiting some friends. He'd left a little later than planned, and now it was just him, his old sedan, and the empty road ahead. Windshield wipers swished slowly, a soft rhythmic sound. The night was cold. The streets were slick from an earlier drizzle, and a low fog had begun rolling in, the kind that doesn't just sit politely in the distance, but swallows the road right in front of your headlights. Everything beyond the beam was just a blank wall of gray. Jake leaned forward a little, squinting. His music had cut to static about 10 minutes ago, so the only sound was the low hum of the engine and the occasional creak of the steering wheel under his hands. That's when he saw it. Sound. Distant, low thump. A heartbeat tone begins faintly. Up ahead, in the pale wash of his headlights, was a shape. At first, it was just a shadow in the fog. But as he got closer, details emerged, human height, human shape. Standing dead center in the lane. Jake eased off the gas. The figure sharpened into something more defined. A costume. Bright. A clown. Bright yellow jumpsuit. Baggy, cartoonish proportions. Curly red wig. White face paint, with exaggerated red lips curling into a frozen grin. And he wasn't moving. Just standing there. Perfectly still. Heartbeat grows slightly louder. Jake slowed the car to a crawl, maybe 15 miles an hour, keeping his hands locked at 10 and 2. He tapped his horn, a short, cautious beep. Nothing. The clown didn't even flinch. Jake tried again, longer this time. The horn echoed into the fog, then faded. Still nothing. First, he thought maybe it was a prank. Halloween was only a week away, after all. People pulled dumb stunts like this all the time for TikTok or YouTube. But then, as the car rolled another 20 feet closer, the clown's head turned. Not his body, just his head. Slowly, deliberately, and Jake realized something that made his stomach knot. The clown's hands were behind his back. Sound. A faint rustle, like shifting fabric. Jake rolled his window down just a few inches, just enough for his voice to carry. Jake calling out, uneasy. "Hey, move." His voice seemed swallowed by the fog. The clown didn't answer, didn't even blink. Jake's brain raced. Maybe the guy was drunk. Maybe he needed help. But something about that frozen posture, about those hidden hands, told Jake to stay inside the car. He decided to drive around. He edged toward the opposite lane, turning the wheel slowly, keeping an eye on the clown as he passed. That's when the clown moved. No warning. No hesitation. He suddenly sprinted toward the driver's side, his movements jerky and fast, like someone running on pure adrenaline. Jake's instincts kicked in. His foot slammed on the gas, tires squealing against the wet pavement as he swerved around him. Sound. Sudden loud tire screech, then rapid acceleration. The clown didn't chase, but in the rearview mirror, Jake caught one last image. The clown standing on the side of the road now, just watching. Not moving, not waving, just watching. Jake's heart was pounding so hard it made his vision pulse. He gripped the steering wheel tight, muttering to himself, trying to calm down. Jake, to himself, shaky. What the hell was that? What the hell? The road stretched on, the fog closing in like a tunnel. He told himself it was over. Just some idiot messing around. He'd be home in 20 minutes. But then, about a mile later, at the next intersection, his headlights caught another figure. Same posture, same yellow suit, same red wig.